Welcome. My ascended heart is open. Clear visions for this clear call, end of September, entering October. For the collective, for us now, for the now time that you witness this, I am utilizing the Akashic Soul Pro app. I'm going to go ahead and begin a session for the highest and best ascended timeline. For the collective, now. Okay, so I'm asking for the highest and best clearing call, anything that really needs to be addressed. We're asking for that code to come on to the app right now. And all I'm literally doing is pushing the automatic button, utilizing the supercomputer to tap in. And so the lead consciousness is reflection. And so this is a great opportunity for us to realize the reflection that comes back to us, the reflection in front of us, is this holographic nature that's being cleansed out of the technology from old timelines, from old witnessings, from old imprints. Who's connected is God consciousness, and this is a parallel life timeline that wants to be worked with for the collective. What wants to be expanded into is joy and really getting back into our radiant beingness. What wants to be cleansed is our reproductive system, meaning what we're reproducing into the reflection, and the stomach meridian, what we cannot stomach anymore. So pretty powerful so far just on this readout. A lot is coming through that I'll share with you in a moment. The why of this record wanting to be addressed for this clearing call this month is sabotage. We really want to make sure that we're learning about the technology that we are radiating through into that radiant consciousness. We want to understand the technology so that we don't get lost in the reflection or trapped outside of ourselves in the reflection, looping around in consciousness, thinking that what we're seeing in our now, if it has any code to it of judgment, then that energy of judgment, that energy of lower than enlightenment energies, those type of frequencies that can entangle and weave into what you're reflecting or seeing, can really keep you sabotaging yourself from stepping into that radiant being and stepping into joy, understanding this technology as God would. Okay, the planet is Mercury, so the planetary constellations, the stars on here, the planets that are on here, are really for us just to, again, utilize any of the maps, any of the identifications that we've created in this system of existence, to utilize them to better understand the reflection, to better understand what is encoded in your hardware, in your biocomputer, and what is literally like a holographic projector. When your light is coming out through the technology, you are seeing what is inside the programming, inside the hardware. So we want to make sure that when we're looking at any of these maps, that we don't get further lost into them, but that we utilize them for best use. And Mercury is all about the mind. So understanding that we are not the mind is a tool. And one of your best things you can do to really help yourself, I found the past few days, is just doing mindfulness, eyes open meditation, as well as closed, but to witness the mind thinking, to witness what's going on in the mind and not getting lost in it, but only to be the witness of the observer of what is actually circulating through your mind, and not hanging on to it, but letting it go, letting it move, as well as cleaning up any of those projections through understanding. Once you understand the projection, you understand what's in the reflection is literally self reflecting back to self, codes within my self-consciousness reflecting back to myself, separate, where I identified myself as separate, wanting to be merged back into this oneness that I am. once you start to recognize those codes, you step out of sabotage, because now you're empowering and understanding the technology and what the technology is used for to enjoy to create, and enjoy, creator creates more. And so, do you want me to go into that right now? Not yet. I was going to go into excess of creation, but I'm going to wait. The essential oil is juniper berry. So juniper berry is a great essential oil that I use to really stabilize the lower channel, stabilize the lower chakra gateways, so that I can make best use of the reflection and not get entangled in it. I find that, when we're lost in the projection, we're lost in the hologram, when we're lost in the mind program, we may be in fear, we may be in judgment, we may be in thinking that there's a victim and a perpetrator. And so we really want to step ourselves out of that and really fold in that victim consciousness, that the demon mind consciousness, where the mind is fighting against itself, not realizing that it actually isn't even the mind. So why would you battle within your own mind and get stuck in the mind? Once you see yourself battling in your mind, questioning, rise higher than that. Get into something greater of your conscious awareness. Observe the mind. What is it battling? Why? And beyond the why, can you disentangle, unwind yourself from that battling, from the mind, only so that you can better understand what you actually are, which is this spacious, pure, potent nothingness consciousness that decided to utilize a mind to think and to create. So the thinking mind was and is a creative tool to create the reflection, the projection, the hologram, right? So it's like we created a tool of a pencil to write a code and have that code be almost like what the mind does. That code is creating a form that will then manifest its own hologram. So it's like if I was writing with the pencil and I forgot that I was the writer, and I forgot that I was even beyond the writer, but I was stuck in that pencil. It's similar to being stuck in your mind, not realizing that it's a tool. Where the energy being that wants to expand on this collective readout is we're wanting to expand in between space. We're wanting to understand form, space, but also in between space or beyond space, which is, again, this elevated consciousness of creator, of God consciousness, so that we really can allow ourselves, again, to be empowered and not sabotage, but to acknowledge the existence itself without a definition, without any holding on to or judging. Our temple doors want to be adjusted. This has been a tall order this past month to close down old doors, old pathways, old imprints, thought patterns, behaviors that are keeping you entangled out into these lower realities, or these realities that, again, you're trapping yourself outside of the greater consciousness that you are. So when I realize that I do have an ability to go out a chakra doorway and entangle with the matrix, with the hologram, and stay a while because I entangled there, lifetimes sometimes, and I learn that I've been entangled in that lifetime script over and over again, I may decide to close down that as a default setting to always go out the chakras. I may decide that I'm going to close those doors, close those realities where I was stuck in victimhood, and empower myself so that I can rise up higher in the awareness of what I actually am, which is beyond anything, beyond definition, just pure consciousness, nothingness, everything to nothingness. So this, again, the collective, we're asking for any additional support on closing down anything that's no longer serving and causing sabotage, no longer allowing us to be able to stomach the way we've been embedded and entangled with the matrix, forgetting ourselves along the way. The vehicle is an RV, so that's a recreation vehicle. There could be some people deciding to lift off the ground, off the entanglement of the fake matrix, or getting lost in the hologram, and the things we've created of excess, by lifting out of that and lightening their load so that they can come back into this grander understanding of self and grander understanding of that conscious state existence. The superpower is presence, being able to be more present. It's a wonderful superpower to have. And again, pure presence doesn't have a thought. It doesn't have a definition. It doesn't have any words or programs. It is just being. And so rise out of the mind, out of the thought, and just be, as I say that, just being. Okay. The event is a celebration. The geometry is a golden mean ratio. When I see the golden mean ratio on the geometry chart, that usually makes me think of where we fractaled out in that golden spiral and got lost in the spiral. So sometimes as you are closing doors, you might notice that those patterns, those imprints, those creations want to spiral back in to the conception point so the door can shut. And so that you can have a new ability as well as a new awareness of when the fractals do start happening with the golden mean ratio, which is the natural order of a thought. When a thought is had, it begins to create the code of it, the formation of that thought, and fractals out and literally can go eternally if it's left so. And it's fine for all of these fractals, all these possibilities, all these thoughts to exist. It's only when you forgot that you're not that thought or you're not that thing that is down the tunnel of the spiral. Cleansing is asking for us to cleanse our unconscious speech, to understand that what we say is, and that if we are not conscious of the technology that we are, the thinker, the speaker, then when we unconsciously speak a code, that is creating, that is fractaling out a reality, a imprint, a blueprint that will have itself fill out. The consciousness only knows how to be everywhere and nowhere, and it's looking for what to settle into from code of thought, speech, and then it reflects back to you. Again, that reflection consciousness. You can see where you've unconsciously spoken because it's in existence. And there's no good, bad, right, wrong, but there are existence patterns that the collective may not really be in alignment with at that God conscious state of like a mask on or being in bondage and slavery. And so those are the codes that we are being asked to fold in, is anything of the fake matrix, slavery matrix, where we are bound and limited and not in touch with our pure potent state of perfection. Beyond the thoughts, beyond the judgments, you are pure and potent and perfect. You are actually a hologram and you're nothing. And so there's nothing to be hurt. So everywhere we feel like we could be hurt or we could be not eternal and put to death and maybe be gory, we're going to delete that whole statement. But again, I'm just in education mode. So anytime I'm in education mode, the conscious speaker will go ahead and gather those codes back up and dissolve and dismantle them so that what I do speak, that we are in pure potent existence perfection, is what I would like to fractal out. I like to experience the perfection of us that are free. Okay. Nature is a storm. The solution is to use a crystal, and the crystal that it suggests is celestite. And so celestite is a light blue crystal, and it's wonderful for working with higher consciousness, hearing higher consciousness. It's a light blue, sparkly crystal. Okay, so let's go ahead and see if there's anything else that wants to be delivered before I do the clearing itself and activation. Okay, so we're going to start to do more practice of getting into source seat. So the source seat is your beginning point, if there was one, of source, and getting in that seat. That may feel like you're getting in the seat of your pineal gland. It may feel like you're getting in the seat of your heart. It may feel like you're getting in the seat of a very tall channel. Your seat could be like all space, no space. It's really up to you. But getting into the beginning point of holographic projections and reflections for the cleanup of anything that you no longer are wanting to experience is really important, I've found, when doing any sort of cleansing or purification work of old programming and imprints that of our own making. Even if you feel someone outside of yourself made that imprint or made that reality, at a very grand point up in the beginning of existence of all beings is one point. So sometimes you may rise out of your separate nature source seat into the greatest being that you are, the greatest existence, the greatest pure consciousness that you are, and getting into that beginning point source seat. And by doing so, you can realize that your neighbor projecting their reality also still has something to do with your own. And so this is an invitation to really open up to the bigness of existence, of consciousness, and be willing to get into that beginning point for any sort of purification of cleanup, of imprint, of code that came from thoughts and words. And how do people have asked, how do I go ahead and clean up those unconscious speech patterns that are literally fractaled out in that golden mean ratio? And it's all intention. It also could be non-intention. You could be in a part of your journey where you're really doing nothing. And in the doing nothing, what I've witnessed within my own wake-up call is that I'm still getting understanding in that nothingness. And that maintaining the understanding or extrapolating the understanding just through sitting and being and allowing for the superconscious intelligence to share with me what this is, gives me a stronger ability to hold that nothingness state and be at peace and contentment with it. So, yeah. Is there anything else you want me to share about this for the collective source seat? And that's a code. Okay. Another code is that I was speaking on how do you cleanse these unconscious patterns. You know, you can imagine fractals of light coming back to you as you say dissolve, dismantle, release, or dissolve. And anything that is meant to dissolve will dissolve. And those eternal fractal particles of light will just recirculate themselves back through sometimes your own presence, sometimes just through the bigger creation, the bigger hologram, the bigger existence, as well as sometimes you may be witnessing with your eyes open or hearing a reality in front of you, which is a reflection. So everything that's happening around you truly is coming from you. So at that very high existence, like I was stating earlier, at that high existence is you start to realize, wait a minute, this isn't some separate event. This is actually part of my own holographic projection. And I could ask why and have that greater understanding, that greater intelligence come to me, and it'll just come. As well as another practice, if you're not auditory yet or you don't get those big type of conscious awareness, is to just observe and not attach into it. To just allow yourself the practice of beingness and observing what's going on in front of you and not entangling, talking with it, anyway, doing any type of exchange or interaction with it, but just to observe and hold space. And when you hold space and observe without judgment, without thinking about what's happening in front of you, so it's a great practice. You will then allow things to disentangle and wind naturally, And that situation may heal itself on its own out of your own psyche, where you don't have to keep recycling that out of your projector, out of your hologram, out of your pineal and frontal lobe area. As well as I find that if you do get those bigger ahas of the conception point of why is this happening right in front of you right now as you went and sat down to do meditation, or sat down into the park, or sat down, with a group of people, why is the situations happening the way they are? Why are you projecting them out in this way? And you'll find that sometimes, you'll have flashbacks of childhood or different timelines where you separated yourself out of the situation, fractaled yourself out of the understanding of being the projector to inside the projection and stuck inside the projection because you forgot what you were. Maybe it was traumatic. Maybe it was jarring. Maybe it was something in it of that beginning point, maybe from childhood or another timeline, that has literally been sitting in like dust in the projector and able to project that same scene or same frequency signature out into your existence right now. And when you have those realizations of what they're actually coming from or where they came from, their conception point, their beginning point of why is this even existing in my reality, you can heal it and you can decide to fold that in, dissolve it, to have greater understanding of it and do nothing. That sometimes just allows those types of sceneries to move along. Let's say it was something, again, dramatic or traumatic that you're witnessing. The more understanding or understanding we have, I find that the plasma particles are no longer going to do that weave anymore. There's not necessary to do that dance anymore of that type of projection, reflection in the holographic nature of our existence. However, if it comes back around the bend, which I find with doing this type of work with groups, sometimes that group that's coming together has a frequency signature that also needs that medicine of healing that timeline or dissolving or coming into a greater understanding of that timeline so it too doesn't have to keep recycling it and repeating it. So you may see it come back around the bend in your reality because those that you're with is needing that understanding and that ease in such of a situation of witnessing that reflection. So do you, Source Seat that I am, do you want me to speak to specifically what's going on in the collective right now around this? Can you speak to that one? Yes, okay. So I'm having a hot flash, which lately, if you've been following me, means there's a door open to consciousness. I am unwound out a door hole that is not in the awareness seat of understanding that I am projecting something. And the thought that I had that gave me the hot flash was a situation that had happened with my family the other day, yesterday, I think it was, of going out, and my daughter was hyper aware and worried that she would encounter someone who would have a problem with her mask, something about the mask. And she's also feels very aware of her well-being, that she feels she doesn't need it, but she feels in the respect of others, she doesn't want to have the reflection, the other get mad at her for not wearing the mask. So she's very hyper aware of the mask. And 2 days ago, she was very aware that this situation was going to happen. And doing the work that I do, sharing it with her, we are all pretty telepathic, pretty aware of what's going on in the collective. So I reminded her a couple things that, well, you can sit in the car and not wear the mask. You can come in, wear the mask, and it'll all be fine. You can clean up that worry and dissolve anywhere where you feel that this situation is going to happen, and call back your plasma and dissolve it, heal it, with the understanding that you have the ability to create your reality through what you will experience. And owning her experience is not something that she's very well versed at yet. She still can sometimes get stuck outside of herself or outside of the understanding that she's creating these things and get so entrenched in it. And if you've had a visceral emotional entanglement, you too may have forgotten that this is all a holographic dream of nothingness, and that you are, gonna have this thing happen, and it's gonna be X, Y, and Z, and it worries you. So she had the experience yesterday where she manifested that reality, whether she was picking up telepathically or psychically, intuitively, that was going to happen, or she thought it so much that she made it happen. She had it down off her nose, halfway on her lip while talking to me, and a person had a very hard time with that and stood way back from us. So we were able to see the real, many different layers. We were able to see the fear factor is like the biggest projection in the hologram that we want to clean up. Our own fear of separateness, our own fear of togetherness, our own fear of our well-being, that we're not well, that there's something could happen to make us not well. The collective control of the mask and what the mask psychologically is doing to the children, having them feel so worried about things to do with this mask, that more than their well-being of like physical well-being, consciousness, emotional, mental health well-being is being affected. And so we'll want to clean up this on the call today. Not to mention the others, the big kid adults that are so lost in the matrix, not realizing their wholeness and well-being, not realizing that this projector is creating reality, what we're saying, thinking, and what we're feeding ourselves from the programmer of the television, of the media, is programming fear so much that have so much information. People are lost in and embedded in this information that can be created instantly by anybody who says anything that is true. Whatever has been said is true. So all these different researchers and people having their experiences are all creating true realities that can be entangled and existed with. So there's so much teaching in this with our wee ones, and helping them to feel at ease and come to harmony and peace with some mindfulness practices when you can, beyond this call, to sit with them and really educate them on their ability to intuit situations that could be happening, to choose the situations they want to have happening, to empower themselves with the understanding that they are infinite, immortal, eternal consciousness that is existing through what it believes, and what the collective that they have not reoccupied their mind around can create the reality for them, and they can easily embed and entangle with that reality. If it's anything, they can entangle with it and get lost outside of themselves and their ability, their perfection. So lots of awarenesses. My daughter was able to empower herself, like with that example that I gave of her own mind. She was able to realize all the layers that I just spoke to you after, a good day of talking about it and really working with it. And she found her way out of that hole of the psyche and back into a understanding of pure potent existence, compassionate place for all beings who may not understand the technology that we are working with and what we truly are. So let's go ahead and drop into our heart space and into our inner space. Locate your heart center in your pineal gland, in the center of the brow, in the center of the head. And whether those two places are beyond those two places, go ahead and step and get into the source seat of your existence. We're going to go ahead and ask for your superconscious awareness that is connected to God, Goddess conscious codes, just to give you a illumination and any additional orientation light codes. So just some plasma particles from that consciousness that would be of benefit. Receive that now at this source seat. And then we're also going to ask for bathing of white light into the technology that you're utilizing in human form. Just bathe yourself with white light so that you can come into a greater understanding of why certain reflections of beings, of situations are happening more instantly with grace and ease from this point forward. I'm going to ask that you close all doors within the temple, within the structure of your human technology, and any other doorways that need to be closed just instantly. We're going to ask your superconscious awareness close all doors that are ready to close so that you have better, again, understanding of what is actually happening in any reflection. We're going to go ahead and ask you to dissolve anywhere you're entangled with a hologram, a matrix, a thought, a creation, a being, a situation, anything and everything that wants to dissolve in this now moment that truly is ready to dissolve, fold in, clear, and purify so that your plasma particles essence can move about more freely and come into its super concentrated state at your existence of source seat for better use when creating. Good. We're going to ask for the crystal, the frequency signature of celestite to come in to give again more illumination, clarity, and understanding to what you really are. And what the hologram and reflection really is. And we're just going to ask for I love you frequency. I'm sorry within my own being of consciousness for not understanding sooner. Thank you for this opportunity to understand so that I may be free of anything that is ready to dissolve or has dissolved. Good. We're going to go ahead and ask you to fill out your radiant being consciousness and state of existence. Imagine beautiful light streaming in through you around your form, throughout space and in between space, all the fluorescent, radiant consciousness, awareness of your being throughout space and in between space is illuminating. And smile, and as you smile, allow your smile to stimulate that illumination inside the vessel. I'll ask that you're stabilized in a new way, grounded throughout in between space in a new way, and willing to hold new holographic ascended timeline projections of harmony, ease, grace, sovereignty, and empowerment. Thank you. Thank you. Please work with your children later today or sometime this week on the topics we discussed. Have a wonderful day.